Hello and welcome to this very special episode of Inside the Tanks. We've been fortunate enough to be invited to the Australian Armour and Artillery Museum here in Cairns, Australia. So join me today, we're going to have a closer look later on at the T-72, but before we do that, let's have a quick whistle-stop tour around this fabulous museum. But what we've really come forward to have a look at today is this little beauty, the T-72. This second generation main battle tank was produced in massive quantities, over 25,000 units, making it the most widely produced Soviet MBT other than the T-54-55, of course. The reason for the production of this was to replace the aging and expensive T-64 Alpha. The T-64 Alpha, cost-wise, well, this turned out at 40% less, making it absolutely fantastic. Okay, so let's take each part of the T-72 then, look at it in more detail. And the first we're going to start with is the front. And you can see the T-72 very distinctive by the V-shaped glacis plate that you've got on the sloped frontal armour there. Also on the front, you see very, very clearly, we've got a steel tow rope and also two towing hooks left and right at the front of the vehicle. If we look at the driving lights on the T-72, what you have got is across to the right-hand side are very normal driving lights, but of course on this side, you've also got an IR driving light as well. You can see we sweep up to the back, past the V-shaped glacis plate that we've got there, and located smack dab centrally is the driver's position, where the driver actually sits. And again, we'll have a look at that in more detail later on. Just to the side there, you can see the driver's hatch in the open position at the moment. Okay, having a look at one of the sides of the T-72 then. The only difference between the two sides really is this particular one is mostly consisted of the storage compartment. On the other side, which you'll have a look at later on, is where we've actually got the fuel compartment all the way down that side. Dealing with this side, you can see we've got storage compartment, storage compartment, storage compartment down there. We'll have a look down there at the moment. Rubber side skirts fitted on this particular model. And of course, as far as suspension is concerned, we've got the very standard Soviet-style suspension. The rubber track and also steel, of course, with 96 links in either side and the 6 evenly spaced road wheels. When we're looking at these storage compartments in more detail, if we have a look and actually open one of these, we can see they're absolutely bone design. We've got 7 clips on there, which makes it incredibly hard to open. If you notice this one, when you open it anyway, you can't open it fully because it stops from opening by the snorkel tube, the container for snorkel tube. And inside there, all we would find mostly is the driver's tools and tools for maintenance. Moving further down on back, the final thing we're really going to deal with is obviously the exhaust. You can see there the heat shield above the exhaust. Okay, we've now jumped onto the back of the T-72. You can see straight away it's not a big vehicle, and you can see we've got actually a very small turret on there. In fact, the whole height of the T-72 was only 2.23 metres, again making it a very good low silhouette to other enemy vehicles. Some of the things on the back of the turret then, you can see quite clearly there we've got a convoy light. Now a convoy light, if you didn't know, was all it was used for, as the name suggests, another vehicle travelling behind at night. It means there's no light on at all. All they can see that the vehicle in front is that very small orange or red light for them to follow. Moving back, we've got another storage bin here. This particular one was used for ammunition, both main armament ammunition and small arms ammunition. And in fact, if we open it up, we can see inside there at the moment, we've got 2 drums for small arms ammunition located inside there at the moment. Moving further down to the back decks, you can see as far as most main battle tanks are concerned, it is very small configuration here on the back decks. At the moment, I'm just stood on the transmission and the engine compartment, and just to my left there, you've also got the air intakes as well. The final thing, really, when we're talking about the back of this vehicle, you can just see there, we spoke about a storage compartment on one side of the T72. On the other side, running all the way down there, you can see we've got the fuel tanks. Okay, looking in a bit more detail then at the turret of the T72. First of all, across the left-hand side of the turret there, we can see we've got the first of our two banks and multi-barreled smoke grenade dischargers. If we work across, we can see very, very clearly we've got the gunner's hatch. Directly in front of the gunner's hatch, you can see a very, very small episcope for the gunner to see through, not great vision through there. But what he has got is his primary sight on the main sight directly in front. You can see that's covered by an armoured cover there. Moving away across the left, very distinctive with the Soviet type design, we've got the commander's hatch, and working our way back down we can see huge monstrosity connected to the main armament with the IR light. Just to the left of that, the final of our two batches of multi-barrel smoke grenade discharges. Let's have a look then in more detail at the main armament on the T72. The T72 is equipped with a 125mm smoothbore gun. Smoothbore versus rifled barrel, well, you could debate that question, of course, until the cows come home, but being a Brit tanky, of course, I will always opt for the rifled version. As far as the thermal sleeve is concerned, you can see that it's got a hardened thermal sleeve as opposed to most of the British MBTs that have got the soft or padded thermal sleeve. And also, if you were to look 3/4 of the way down the barrel, you can see we've got a very standard fume extractor configuration on there. The gun fires armoured-piercing Finstable discarding sabot, heat, and the OF-26 ATF-T rounds, with a rate of fire of between 6 to 8 rounds a minute. Obviously, the big thing about the T-72 was the auto-loading system, which necessitated the need for 3 members as opposed to 4 members of the crew. 22 rounds kept in the carousel in the fighting compartment. We'll see that in more detail when we jump inside. And another 70 rounds located in the storage compartments around the turret as well, with a couple of rounds located on the exterior of the vehicle. Okay, we've now jumped inside the fighting compartment of the T-72. The first thing you can see there is absolutely no room whatsoever in here, and it is a pretty cramped turret. But of course, because of that, only a 2-man crew in here. The position I'm in at the moment is that of the commander. Some of the controls you can see for the commander up there, straight ahead in front of him we have his sight, primary sight. This particular one is the TKN-3 sight that he's got on there. Also to the left and right of that, 2 very, very simple periscopes or episcopes. Now the whole of the fighting compartment really is taken up with the breech mechanism assembly, which you can see quite clearly here, and also the auto-loading system. And this is where the majority of the space in the T-72 fighting compartment actually is lost to, the auto-loading system. This is all the mechanism that actually loads it, the 2-part ammunition. But you can see that the sheer space inside here is not much at all. It is a very simple layout, very functional, but it's not particularly comfy. Okay, we've now crossed over then, and I'm now sat in the gunner's position. Again, I didn't like to say it, but even less room, certainly for your legs, than there was in the commander's position. Predominantly taken up by the whole of this position is obviously, of course, the gunner's primary ocular style sight with one very, very simple prismatic sight but located to the front of it. If we go beneath that, we've then got the controls for the traverse, that's left and right, and also the elevation controls. And just to the left and right of those, we've also got a manual elevation and a manual traverse hand wheel as well. To the left of those, we've got the gun position indicator, and also we've also got a very, very simple fan to try and keep you cool, obviously. Final thing really to mention while we're in there, obviously we talked about this auto-loading system. You can see another view from the other side of the auto-loading system is the ejection opening, which if you go up to the top there, you can see the ejection opening on there. All right, so that really is the interior of the T-72. It is a very basic configuration. The thing that strikes you most about it is actually the complete and utter lack of space or any sort of crew comfort whatsoever. Okay, we're now obviously going to look at the driver's cabin. The seat is well padded and comfortable for Soviet traditions and secured to supports bolted directly to the whole floor below. To either side of the driver's feet are the steering handles. The use of steering tillers is one of the more antiquated components of an otherwise fairly modern machine. To the driver's right is his gear shift and components of the NBC protection system. The pedals in front of his seat include the normal clutch, brake and accelerator. The driver has a single vision periscope mounted forward of its overhead hatch. Now there is little room between the hatch and the centered gun tube above that when the turret is centered, the driver has real problems using it. The driver's best chance for an emergency exit is to remove his seat back and squirm into the turret, exiting then up and through one of the turret hatches. And that's us finished then with our whistle-stop tour of the T-72. There's no doubt, of course, that the T-72 in its day was one of the world's best main battle tanks. However, without modification and upgrades, it is now really no comparison and no contender for anything out there on the battlefield. With this very poor integrated fire control system, lack of ammunition, and of course, the ability where the ammunition actually catches fire and causes problems inside the turret, it is really now an obsolete vehicle.